Hey fellow tankers, it's Mobius Y here with some more game replays. And like the previous couple of game replays, these replays are a little bit different than me just picking a random tank and playing them. These are my very first games in the Tier 8 T28 Prototype US turreted tank destroyer. Now, something to note with these first games, I am still playing this tank fully upgraded. I have a crap load of free XP, as I'm sure most of you know by now, but for those who have not noticed, I have a crap load of free XP. And I don't really have to play stock tanks anymore. And 90% of the time on my grinds these days, I don't play stock tanks anymore. As using free XP to get off of stock packages is the smartest use of your free XP in this game, to be totally honest. So this very first game, we are on Fisherman's Bay. It's a standard battle. And there's quite a few tier 9s on both teams, about 5 or 6 on each team. So I figured that depending on which tank I came across over here in town, which is where I decided I was going to go, that for the most part I probably could rely on the frontal armor of the T28 Prototype. The frontal armor profile on the 28 Proto it's not bad, but it's not great either. It's more just unreliable, honestly. It's about 220, 230 effective, and that's enough to deflect shots from Tier 8 mediums and heavies, a lot of Tier 9 heavies that are not fully upgraded, especially. A lot of Tier 9 medium tanks that do not shoot APCR standard with a 105mm cannon. And even some Tier 8 tank destroyers, but a lot of Tier 8 tank destroyers can pen the front of this thing. A lot of Tier 9 heavy tanks can pen the front of this thing. A few Tier 9 medium tanks can pen the front of this thing. So, you know, I figured I'd just have to play it kind of cautious and just kind of looking around, seeing what's going on as I'm closing into the town. And I see a T-24 very exposed. He gets tracked, so I'm able to land a nice shot into his side for an extra 427 damage on a very dangerous Tier 9 medium tank. So I knew going in to this very first game here that the 28 Proto is a slow tank. And pretty nice shot there on the enemy scout tank. Looked like a T-37. Although he wasn't moving at he was moving at a very sharp angle from my position, so it was pretty easy to line up the shot and take him out there. So moving into town here, I'm looking at the T-54E1. I figured if he's fully upgraded, he could probably just punch me full of holes. If he's not fully upgraded, I could sit there and tank his shots all day long. That's when the M6 pokes out too far. I plant a good shot into him, low rolling him, but still taking about half of his HP off of his HP gauge in one shot. So I'm already kind of enjoying the performance of this gun. It aims okay. It's fairly accurate. I believe it was 0.38 accuracy or some crap, so I can hit what I want if I'm not being too ridiculous about it. And the penetration is fairly solid at Tier 8. But if I ran across one of these Tier 9 heavy tanks, I knew I was going to have trouble. Snapshot of the ISU 152, only damaging his tracks, not doing any HP damage. I came around to help out the friendly medium tank on the other side of this 54E1. Immediately he turns to back off and start getting shots onto me. But I can see that he's reloading, so I plant one more shot into his side to take him out of the game. A 54E1's a pretty dangerous Tier 9 medium tank to have still alive in the latter stages of a very Tier 9 game, as they can clip out a lot of your teammates. Pretty slick snapshot there, kind of, on the T-54, who was trying to escape and get to a better position. Somebody else whacked him, knocking him down to one shot, so I was able to finish him off. I got a very lucky bounce from this Wheezy 120 here, bouncing off my side armor. Immediately after that, though, I lost nearly half my HP to the enemy artillery, who apparently had a vested interest in me. So Wheezy 120 still charging into town, trying to help out his teammates. I missed my shot very, very badly. So it looked like he was going to the far side of the building, so I simply rotated. I was going to come around to the right side of Joe the Frogman here. I wanted to try and keep Joe alive and in the game as best as I could, as his J Panther 2 is a much faster TD than mine, and later in the game he will be way more critical in closing out this game, chasing down the last remaining reds than I will be. So just coming up on the backside of the Wheezy 120, me and Joe the Frogman, we just quickly poke out and double tap him right in the backside and take him out of the game. one more Tier 9 medium tank out of this game. So pretty much all that's left is the E75 for Tier 9s. That leaves a Tiger 2, and those are both of their heavy tanks. And a pair of mediums. One of them just getting taken out by our STI. A Comet, LTTB, and T28 Prototype, as well as artillery. But I knew their artillery was in pretty big trouble as we had 5 friendlies basically surrounding him. So I wasn't worried about the artillery one bit, so I simply just started my slow trek across the map to see if I could get some more damage in this game shooting the few remaining enemy tanks. Now, it was a moment like this where I honestly figured I'm probably not going to do any more damage this game unless I get really lucky. We just happen to come across a camper who's sitting in the right spot and I actually get into a decent position in time. So I figured if I just take cruise control up, I'll just be patient. I'll get somewhere eventually and hopefully get shots on something. Of course, nothing's really guaranteed to World Tanks, so I simply just I stayed on the course and just kept on trucking, looking at the tank, watching teammates take out the enemy Comet. So we know that there's an STI and a T28 Prototype left over, and they're got to be in the very top left corner. STI gets spotted right at this moment, so he's got to be getting he has to be getting backed up by the enemy T28 Prototype. And as we pull forward, one of my platoon mates actually spots the 28 Prototype. I simply snap my gun over there, fire a round off very quickly after aiming in, and I managed to penetrate him in the side of the turret. So the Tiger 2 is still in the village as well. I'm trying to light up a shot on him, as I am less concerned about the LTTB at this point in time. And our friendly in the Object 704 actually takes out the LTTB anyways, so nothing wrong with that one. So I simply just waited for the Tiger 2 to make a mistake and possibly back up too far, which he did, but my shot was very heavily donked right into the building that he's hiding behind. So I simply waited for him to possibly back up even further this time. I just sat with my gun trained exactly where I expected him to come back. He pulls out way too far, gets blasted by the friendlies. He's down to a one-shot, so I'm just waiting for him to make the mistake of backing up way too far so I can put a shot into his side. If it doesn't happen, I'm totally okay with that too. Of course, we had 2 people capping as well, but he backs up just as we finish the cap, allowing me to get one more damaging hit in this game. So finishing that game with more than half of my HP intact was actually very surprising, considering I had a 54E1 that could have easily circled me. 2,620 damage dealt for just under 4,000 XP on the ×2 victory. Interesting first game, but I didn't chalk it up to oh my god, this tank is amazing and this is going to be awesome. This tank moves 18 kilometers an hour. I chalked it up to me getting pretty goddamn lucky, especially considering artillery didn't flat out kill me when it shot at me. He only splashed me for about half my HP, but even then, it landed close enough to take out half of my HP in one shot. That kind of tells you something about this tank and how it can survive artillery hits. So the very next game, loaded up on Sand River Night, and it's an assault game. So I just simply waited to load in to check out the team layout, and right off the bat, I can see that once again it's a higher tier game. There's quite a few 9s and 10s. Myself and my platoon, Joe the Frogman, Mistaken ID, we are very bottom tier, being some of the only tier 8s on our team. But, sometimes you get that kind of matchmaking. That's World of Tanks for you. So I wasn't really sure where the hell to go on this map, as this tank is so goddamn slow. I had no idea where to go, what to do, so I figured I'll go to the south and see if I can support the dunes in the south. Apart from that, I didn't really have the slightest clue what I should do with this tank on this map. I was simply winging it. Couple that with the fact artillery was in play, I wasn't really expecting to have a very pleasurable experience in this game. I'll just put it that way. But what can you do? Number one, when you're driving a tank as slow as the T28 Prototype, and secondly, when there's artillery on the enemy team, and thirdly, when you are absolutely bottom tier. But you just got to make the best of it. So, trucking along, just trying to keep an eye on the map of what's getting spotted on the enemy team. Looks like their 2 scouts get noticed right away. Their RU-251 Spy Panzer and the Awful Panther, Tier 7 and Tier 8 scouts. So my team is just positioning all over the map here to try and defend the flag. I tried to line up a shot on the Awful Panther, but that was no joy. He was just backing up way too quickly. I could have Hail Married a shot, but I was not expecting a miracle there, so I didn't bother. Looking over, seeing that the first scout tank is just going absolutely ham on our M41 Bulldog, but our 41 Bulldog clips the crap out of him, taking him out of the game. And by that point, our friendly T69 is close enough to back up the Bulldog against the Awful Panther. So their two scouts are dead. One of their medium tanks was killed. And moving up, I see this enemy bat shot right in the middle of the map. Amazingly, I don't get spotted, but I line up a shot. I fire blind. Provided he wasn't moving too much, it looked like the shots flew pretty straight, so I honestly expected that I actually landed that shot. So I turned back, continued on my present course to try and get into a moderately defensible position. I didn't want to be caught by the attacking force anywhere between here and this ridge in front of me, directly in front of me. But seeing the potential for a shot here, I stopped, I aimed in, and I saw a fully broadside VK-45 Bravo. So I knew those were shots that I had to take, as a 45 Bravo is a major pain in the ass to penetrate from the front. But its sign armor is really weak, and I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. It looks like my first shot hit when I shot it kind of blind. Going for a second shot, another hit for 416 damage. So right after that second shot, I actually do get spotted, so I know I'm in a really terrible position. So I figure I'm gonna have to just kind of get stuck here, I suppose. Fire another blind shot at the VK-45 Bravo. Not sure if he's still side on or not. Doesn't really matter. I need to get out of dodge. Something hits me right after I get spotted for a good nearly 400 hit points. So I lost a good chunk of health right there. I know I don't want to get caught out in the open with this Yog Tiger on my right side, having a bead on me. So I'm just trying to reposition and stay hidden from the Yog Tiger, as well as just stay hidden from whatever possibly spotted me. The VK Bravo gets spotted one more time, so I aim in, take my shot, and voila, I take him out of the game. 355 more damage dealt. So far, 3 penning hits, all on the VK-45 Bravo. No idea how much damage I've done. Probably totaling about maybe 1,000 to 1,200, but I haven't been keeping a running tally, as I fired my first hit blind. So just trying to position and get over here where Mistaken ID is in her T28 Prototype. Get behind some cover and hopefully be able to focus down on specific targets that will show up in front of us rather than get shot at but from 3 or 4 different angles. We know the Batchat in the middle is a problem, but there's also a Waffle Panzer IV coming up on our right side through the sand dunes here, so we're in pretty bad shape here, especially since the game's pretty even, but technically we're down 1 tank. Currently the red team's up 6-7, so we're trying to play quite a bit more conservative and stick with our T69. Pushing forward, I figured I could try and support this T69 as best as I can. Somebody spots the J-Panther 2 in the distance, but I do not have a shot to save my life. And I see a tracer come from way over there by the town towards the T69. That Waffle Panzer 4 pokes out, gets spotted, and does this amazing snapshot on Mistaken IT, who was right next to me, pulling off a pretty crazy RNG, that's World of Tanks snapshot to take out another one of my platoon mates. And just like that, now we are down 10-6, and I knew I was in for a bad time at this point. Our T-30 goes full ham, charging across the open, exposing his hull, and he just gets absolutely torn apart by the multitude of TDs that have a bead on him. So I'm over on this side all by myself with a Waffle Dragon and an M48 Patton on the other side of the map. And artillery is still in play with all these enemy tanks around me. So I take a look around, see if I can see what saw me. Aiming on the Batchat, and right then and there is when I got taken out of the game by artillery. No surprise there. Artillery didn't even have to hit me dead on to kill me. But that's the end of my game, and naturally we lost that quite badly too. And as expected, I only did 1,130 damage. So a very poor performance that game, but what can you expect when you're caught in a really bad position with a really slow tank? Anyways, those are my first 2 games of the T28 Prototype. I hope you enjoyed watching. And stick around for a full review of the T28 Prototype for Episode 4 of the Road to the T110E4. In the meantime, this has been Mobius Y. Hope you guys have a good night, and happy tanking!